Hi, everybody. I'm Leonard Maltin.
And I'm Jessie Maltin.
And you are listening to and possibly watching Maltin on Movies because we're shooting it on the iPhone.
On the iPhone.
And posting it on the YouTube.
On the YouTube.
In addition to circulating it audio-wise.
I'm so glad you've explained in detail how podcasts work. It's one of your specialties.
That's one of the things I do. I'm known around this house as master of the obvious.
But we keep you anyway.
Yeah.
You know, we love you and we accept who you are.
Oh, thank goodness.
I think that's solid.
Thank goodness.
Now we are coming to you today from my dad's office on his couch. This couch is older than I am. If you can't tell, I don't know if you, for those of you watching, you can see this orange color, 100% made in the 70s. Like this color does not exist today at all.
They've outlawed it? What?
I don't know. I feel like maybe it was just retired in like 1980 about. Maybe even 81, I'll give it that much. But because we are home, I have a sleeping dog next to me who will inevitably get up at some point. My mom's here. We're all in the house. So if you hear some noises, I'm sorry.
And the air conditioning's on because it's a
freaking
blisteringly
hot
day.
outside.
So if there's a sort of a soft whir in the background, that's what you're hearing. Just gonna.
There's a crack in the left doorway with a slut. I'm just saying. Listen.
You see what I have to put up with?
I mean, really, it's true. We just interviewed my dad's friend, Will Friedwald, my friend too, but he said that he feels that sometimes we look at you as the absent-minded professor, to which I responded, we do. And my mom always says, whenever you're doing something particularly ridiculous, she goes, had his first book published at 18. It's okay. We love you anyway. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
How you doing? We have been quarantining like everybody else, watching lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of movies and TV shows and catching up, and you've been reading as you do. My dad is a voracious reader, and what we're hoping to do is several episodes of our show like this, where it's for YouTube, so you can watch along with us, and also for our regular old podcast, which we love and appreciate that you are listening to. So I decided, it was just past April 24th, which is Leonard Maltin Day in Los Angeles, which is really, really cool. And happened in 2018. We have the big old plaque downstairs. And
beautiful calligraphy.
Yes. The only thing that was difficult about that day is that we had to be at City Hall at like 8 a.m. That was a bit of an insult. Like you get a day, but you can't do it like 10:30. Can't have us come over at 11 o'clock like a human hour. No. Yeah, it's amazing and it thrills us.
And that was our first, I'm embarrassed to say, it was our first trip to Los Angeles City Hall.
Your first trip.
Well, yes, that was my first trip.
I grew up here. My school took me.
The thing about City Hall, which was built in 1928, it is as old as Mickey Mouse, who was also unveiled, developed, born in 1928. But to my generation of baby boomers, that building, which is a handsome building on the outside and on the inside, that building was the Daily Planet on the Superman TV show starring George Reeves, which I grew up watching over and over and over again like every kid I knew. So that's what it remains in my mind. And as you're riding down the Hollywood freeway, the 101, and it appears on the horizon, and I look at it admiringly, I said, there's the Daily Planet.
That's right. So is he your Superman?
Pardon me?
When you picture Superman, is he your Superman?
Yes. I mean, I like Chris Reeve very much.
Yeah. No, it's not a it's just innate. We all have it within us. We know who our Batman is.
George Reeves.
He's my Batman too. I'm with you. He's my Batman.
You mean Adam West?
No. I mean what you used to show me growing up.
Oh.
I know who I mean.
You said he's my Batman. That's
no.
I
said everyone has a Batman. Everyone has a Superman. Yeah. No. My Superman is your Superman. I'm with you. Same thing.
He's great.
Anyway, what it sort of inspired me to do was to ask my dad a whole heap of questions. There are things that we get asked constantly, but there are some that I love certain stories. I also just think it's fun sometimes to pick your brain because there's so much in there. So I have some questions here.
None of those things in my brain have to do with logic.
No.
Daily living.
No. Are you wearing socks today?
I am.
I'm so proud. A belt?
I'm wearing my Pepe Le Pew socks.
Well, there you go. You're wearing a belt?
I am wearing a belt.
They grow up so fast. You know what I mean? They grow up so fast. I'm very proud of you.
Thank you.
Well, there are several different avenues for me to wander down as we begin.
Mm-hmm.
But let's start at the beginning. What is the very first movie you ever reviewed? Do you remember?
First movie I reviewed?
Mm-hmm.
Gosh. I don't count the little capsule reviews that I wrote for the first edition of TV Movies, the movie guide. The first movie that I reviewed was probably for the NYU Daily Newspaper.
Okay.
So I would have been 18.
Yeah.
My first semester, fall of 1968. No, I was 17 in the fall of 68. My birthday's in December. So I would have been 17 years old, and I went to the offices of the Washington Square Journal, which was published Monday through Thursday, very professional-looking paper. And I offered my services as a movie reviewer, and then I wrote my first real movie review, and I can't remember what it is. and I could use some... I have a bound volume down in the garage that might answer that question. I remember reviewing Godspell. I'm going to have to...
And then what were the two films you reviewed for Entertainment Tonight?
I haven't found the second one yet.
Okay.
The first one I know was Steve Martin and Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid.
Okay.
Directed by Carl Reiner.
That's a good way to start.
And the reason I was able to review it was that Alice and I had gone to the Santa Fe Film Festival, run by Bill and Stella Pence,
yes,
the co-founders of the Telluride Festival.
And your dear friends.
And they staged the festival there for 3 years. We missed the first one, but the second one was all to do. This is a tangent, but it's a good one. They staged a festival about music and movies. Not musical movies, music and movies. This is who they got to come in person. Opening night, Gene Kelly. Midweek, Lillian Gish, who appeared with the Santa Fe Chamber Orchestra as they screened her silent film Broken Blossoms.
Wow.
And then for the rest of the week, they had Betty Comden and Adolph Green, Ginger Rogers, Ray Bolger, Chuck Jones, Frank Thomas and Ollie Johnston, Robbie Robertson from the band, Virgil Thompson, the great American classical composer, who scored some significant documentaries, shorts, and films. I'm sure I'm forgetting somebody.
I don't think there is anyone else.
It was Benny Goodman.
Oh my God.
It was a dizzying week. And just an unbelievable festival. And and the great film composer Miklos Rozsa, whose new film was Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid, which they got to show like 3 or 4 weeks before it opened. And that's how I had the ability to review it on a timely basis for Entertainment Tonight for my audition.
Wow. That's wild.
Yeah.
That's so wild.
That festival, oh my God. I have a great picture of Mommy being hugged by and hugging Ray Bolger.
Oh, I know. I love that photo.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorites. She's glowing in that shot.
We had dinner with him and his wife, which was just, fantastic. And that's where I knew Ginger Rogers was going to be there. And I brought an 8x10 that I wanted her to sign to this cocktail party.
Yeah.
And at a certain point, I asked her, and she's very gracious, nice woman. And I said, Miss Rogers, would you be willing to sign this? Certainly. She took a pen that I offered, and she started, and I said, would you write it to Leonard? And I said, and Alice. She looked at me, she said,
She scolded you.
It should be to Alice and Leonard. I said, I know, I'm going to hear about this later. She said, you're hearing about it now.
You got told by Ginger Rogers?
Yep, yes I did.
And that has stuck by, because you told me that story many times, and I do always think about it whenever I watch anyone sign a book.
And then I had an interesting conversation brief conversation with Miklos Roja, who scored everything from The Thief of Baghdad to Ben-Hur, you know, magnificent composer. And I told him that I really enjoyed listening to the original recordings, the ones that were made at the time of the film, rather than the recreated ones.
Interesting.
Which were made with today's sound equipment and stereophonic and multi-channel. And he looked at me like I was out of my mind. He said, "Why would you want to listen to inferior sound when you could hear, the richness of the orchestra, so much improved?"
Man.
He could not understand that what I had was a kind of an attachment
Yeah.
to the sound of that period.
Sure.
That made no sense to him at all. And I made no sense to him at all.
And here we are.
And I had a one sentence, if you can call it a sentence, interview with Benny Goodman.
Okay.
He came.
Did you just say, "Hey, you're Benny Goodman," and he walked away?
He showed his face at this cocktail party, looked around and was about to leave. And I said, "Mr. Goodman." He said, "Yes." I said, "Would you mind posing for a photo?" "No." And I have a nice picture of me and Benny. And I said, "Whose idea was it for you to sing Paducah in The Gang's All Here?" And he said, "Well, it wasn't mine." That was my interview with Benny Goodman. I had a similar interview with another great jazz band leader, Stan Kenton, backstage at a concert in my high school or somewhere in Bergen County. I said, "Do you have a favorite of all those short subjects you made?" He said, "I thought they were all pretty bad." So I thought a lot of these, mini conversations.
I like that. Oh, man.
More recently, I had a chance to talk with John Williams, the great John Williams.
Yeah.
Backstage at that LA Jazz Society event.
That was wild.
And
that was really wild.
And I said to him, testing the waters, I said, "I remember the name of one of the Western albums you did with Frankie Lane, Deuces Wild. But I can't remember the other one." He looked at me and a little smile crept onto his lips and he said, "Hell Bent for Leather." And then he started telling me what a sweet guy Frankie Lane was. How much he liked working with him.
As you've raised me as a Frankie Lane fan, so this brings me joy.
Yeah.
No, that was surreal. There are moments when you're in a room with someone and genuinely saying, "How's this go? Oh my God, I don't even know." And he was one of them for me, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. He was sitting there. We were in this, you can't really call that a green room.
No.
It was a space with a couch in it.
Yeah.
And very small, the kind of white walls that only an insane asylum.
That's right. This
is
at the Montalban Theater on Vine Street.
They have this little dressing room there.
You had to go outside to change your mind.
Right. The old ones.
Yeah.
They're still funny.
But I put a key in the keyhole and broke a window.
What I like is that you now have platforms to share these jokes. That's what I think is so nice.
Or to inflict.
Both of those things.
Yeah.
Oh, man. No, I think we all had the same reaction to him of sort of like a, ooh. But, all right. Now, these are the questions that I know are terrible to answer, but I'm going to ask them anyway. The first one, people mostly know this already, but your favorite film is?
Casablanca.
That's right. When did you first see it? Do you remember?
Here is my favorite line. Once upon a time, there was a chain of Warner Brothers stores.
Oh, man.
And I'm still in mourning.
We had everything from those stores.
Oh, they had wonderful products. Great stuff.
So good.
And at one point, they did needlepoint, or faux needlepoint pillows of some memorable lines. Betty Davis's "What a Dump."
Yes.
was one. And then this, which is, if I'm going to, for the listeners.
Yes, explain what you're looking at.
It's a little pillow that says, "I was misinformed," which is part of a back and forth between Claude Rains and Humphrey Bogart, where Rains, as Captain Louis Renault, says to Rick Blaine, "How did you happen to come to Casablanca?" And he has more dialogue than. And Bogart ultimately says, "It's for my health. I came to Casablanca for the waters." Claude Rains says, "Waters? What waters? We're in the desert." And Bogey says, "I was misinformed."
And it brings you joy.
Yeah, great line.
It brings you
great,
joy,
great
and that's
line.
all that
One
matters.
of many great lines in that film.
Do you remember the first time you saw it?
Yes, I know
Okay.
exactly when and where. There was a Bogart Revival in the late 60s.
Okay.
Because as the counterculture movement was growing, a theater in Cambridge, Mass. I think it was the Orson Welles Cinema. I hope I'm getting that right. It might have been Coolidge Corner, but one of those theaters started a Bogart Revival because he was the anti-hero.
Yeah.
And they were discovering, from films made, 25 years earlier, here was this Hollywood anti-hero that they could look up to and embrace. And so my parents took me to the 8th Street Playhouse in Lower Manhattan to see a double bill of High Sierra with Ida Lupino, Humphrey Bogart, Ida Lupino, and Casablanca. So the first time I saw it was in a theater on a big screen with an audience.
Incredible.
And that's
Incredible.
That's when I fell in love.
Wow. Understandably so.
Mm-hmm.
See, these are the ones that are hard. Favorite director, knee jerk.
Billy Wilder.
Okay. Second?
Who was a writer-director.
Yes. Second?
Oh.
You can do it. Come on, you can do it. People ask all the time. I know the answer. For you.
Then what's the answer?
Who do you always talk about as being one of your heroes? 70s.
I'm drawing a blank. Why am I drawing a blank?
I don't know why you're drawing a blank. Go through some of your favorite in your mind.
Oh, well, I mean, there's contemporary and classic. Contemporary, Robert Altman.
Robert Altman.
Flowered in the 70s.
That's why I say 70s.
Yeah.
Robert Altman's the one I think I hear you talk about the most.
Yeah.
Other than Billy Wilder.
Yeah.
That seems to be, to me, the one that comes to you quickly.
But I like all the writer-directors. I like Preston Sturges, Billy Wilder, more recently Alexander Payne.
Yes.
Jeff Nichols. There's something special about people who write and direct films. It says there's a passion behind this storytelling.
Yeah. What's interesting about that to me...
Joseph L. Mankiewicz, another great writer.
It goes both ways.
Mm-hmm.
It's a tricky thing because on the one hand, it can be great because you have a vision. On the other hand, it can mean you have a vision and you need someone else to be able to come in and tell you where to pull back.
Yes, that's true.
And
which I think is the flaw or the fly in the ointment with Quentin Tarantino. Who is a very gifted man, very talented man, but I think he is incurably self-indulgent.
Mm-hmm.
And as much as I love some of his movies.
Oh yeah.
I love Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
I love Kill Bill 1 and 2.
Yeah.
I love Jackie Brown.
Yeah. He's also one though where you can always, even if you don't like a film, you respect.
Oh yeah.
What's going on? So
right.
it's not like we talk about sometimes. It's not like it's ever a waste of time.
No, he's always going to show you something interesting.
Yeah.
Certainly never going to bore you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Although The Hateful Eight came close. But, I do wish somebody that he respected would be standing over his shoulder saying, maybe you want to trim that scene a little bit, or maybe this doesn't need to go on quite as long. Something like that.
Do you want to tell the James Cameron your theory on that one? Or are we going to keep that as a secret between us?
My theory?
Oh,
yes. Yeah, this is my, in an ideal world, another talented man, James Cameron. I think he's a visionary.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not alone in that. A lot of people, feel that he thinks ahead.
Mm-hmm.
He's in a place that we haven't reached yet, which he's proven several times over. From the beginning, from the Terminator.
Yeah.
Which set a new bar for action filmmaking. And The Abyss, set a new bar for visual effects in storytelling, and so on and so forth. But I don't think he's a very good writer. My wish is that when he finished writing his first draft of a movie, he would then give it to John Sayles, another of my very favorite writer-directors, to polish it and to put in great. John Sayles can't write a false line of dialogue. He's incapable of doing it.
Nope.
And even though some of his films are less than perfect,
yeah,
the dialogue is always superb.
This has just come off.
Oh, now it's back.
There you go. Sorry, continue.
That's it.
That's it.
It's my big theory.
But I think it's a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's a good call
Mm-hmm.
on your part. It'd be interesting.
Yeah, it would.
There's so many like that. There are so many talented people who just need someone to maybe nudge them in the right direction.
Every writer needs an editor.
Absolutely.
You have become my editor
Mm-hmm.
in what I write for the website, and you've become a very good editor.
Thanks.
And I appreciate the feedback that you give me.
Thanks.
And any writer worth his or her salt should welcome constructive criticism and good editing.
I would also say, though, to anyone who aspires to be or is presently an editor, always make sure that you compliment. As much as I may come to you and say, I don't like this line, I didn't like that, at the same time, I will always say, I loved what you wrote about this, or I thought this was great. And because that's the thing, is that everybody does need, it doesn't matter who you are, everybody needs a little boost. And everyone needs to know that as much as I'm going to say to you, I feel like we should rework this, or I didn't like how you said that, at the same time, I should always be saying, this was perfect. I didn't have to touch this. This was beautiful. I could tell how passionate you are. It's very useful. And for anybody that I help with editing, that's always something I try to do, is I do try to give both, so that nobody ever feels like all it is going, you're wrong, you're bad, you didn't do this right. We all need that.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it means that when you do compliment me, it has weight behind it.
Yeah, it's genuine.
It's not just throwing me
Yeah.
Bouquets for the sake of doing that.
Though my mom, this is actually a fun family fact. My mom and I do throw bouquets at him, just on a regular. We just follow him around, him around the house, throwing bouquets. All right. Do you have a favorite biography and a favorite autobiography?
Wow.
I know. I'm sorry.
Wow.
I had to try.
Again, so very many.
I know.
I look back. I mean, I was about to write something on this topic, actually, on the first film books that really meant something to me.
And that's something that you get asked about a lot. That's one of the big things that happens really frequently, is we get messages, even just from friends. We get messages about, what do you recommend for a book on silent film? What do you recommend on this, on that, on the other? And it's amazing that while bookstores are suffering, books will always be valuable. And many people, us especially, but many people love having and holding a book. Kindle is great. I think it's great, especially if you travel. It makes it easier, makes it simpler, but I will always want to have and own books.
I cannot boil it down to one.
Okay.
When I was young, books that mattered to me a lot were Gene Fowler's biography of John Barrymore called Goodnight, Sweet Prince. And that had a lot to do with my falling in love with John Barrymore, a love affair that continues to this day. Fascinating man. A great talent that went astray. Therein hangs the tale. Well, when I was alive and getting interested in all this when John McCabe's book, Mr. Laurel and Mr. Hardy, came out, and I took it out of the library, read it, returned it, took it out again, read it, returned it, took it out again. It's a cycle like that because I couldn't afford to buy a hardcover book for myself until later.
Right.
And then, shortly thereafter, Rudy Blesch's biography of Buster Keaton, called Keaton, came out. And again, these books were formative books for me as an adolescent, budding, movie buff. So, and Joe Hyam's book, Bogey, and Bob Thomas's book, King Kong, about tyrannical head of Columbia Pictures, co-founder of Columbia Pictures, Harry Cohn. Great anecdotes, great anecdotes there. In recent years, there have been so many good ones. My friend Scott Iman is a wonderful biographer, and I'm eagerly awaiting his new book on Cary Grant, which is coming this fall.
We are going to be doing a show just about books. That is coming for you. We have one coming just about books, one coming with Criterion, Kino Lorber, all those sorts of suggestions, especially for everybody at home.
Blu-rays and DVDs, right?
Yep.
Anyway, Scott's book on John Wayne, Scott's book on Cecil B. DeMille.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're neck and neck. All his books are good, and they're all very much worth reading. His book on DeMille, who I find a fascinating figure.
Absolutely.
Is exhaustively researched and so well written that it really, I could clear my bookshelf of the other DeMille books I've gotten over the years because his book is definitive.
Yeah.
It covers everything and covers it authoritatively. And it's very readable too. And his book on John Wayne is damn good. His book on Ernst Lubitsch, his book on Mary Pickford, all of those books. But I think the DeMille really stands out in my mind because I've been waiting for a really, really good book about him. And there have been some attempts that left me wanting.
I always go back to that Fred Harvey book, though, because in terms of you, my mom and I joked, my dad is like our Cliff Notes, because he'll read, especially, my mom and I are both dyslexic. My mom is taken to listening to books on tape, and she loves that. For me, I'm just not somebody who can get into the books on tape. They make me sleepy. I find them very relaxing, and I have trouble listening. I did love to read, and I still can, but just it's very difficult. Dyslexia is no fun. But I have a dad who reads everything and then tells us every story that's his favorite. And that's how we know what book you're reading, because every night, either at dinner or if we're traveling, you'll come in and you'll say, "Can I read you this? Can I read this to you?" Or you'll just paraphrase a story. And I think that the Fred Harvey, that book,
Appetite for America,
that book had the most, in terms of you just getting giddy and say every night and this and this.
It's
and
not a
this.
biography; it's a saga.
Yeah,
it's a saga of the conquest of America through feeding America.
Yeah,
really. That's why it's called Appetite for America.
Yeah.
If you've seen the movie The Harvey Girls, 1946 musical with Judy Garland and Ray Bolger and Angela Lansbury, that's a kind of a lighthearted treatment of the real subject, which was this man named Fred Harvey, who was British born, came here with nothing, not a dollar in his pocket, started working in the restaurant business, in the kitchen, learned about restaurants, opened his own, and then realized that the future of America was moving west as the railroads moved west. And that he felt that his destiny was tied to the railroads. What he wanted to do was he wanted to be the one who provided food and lodging to travelers, including people who only had a 20-minute stop at Kansas City or going through to another destination. And he wanted to be the one who owned the railroad depot restaurant where you could get lunch in 20 minutes and get back on your train.
But also the way he took care of the girls.
Yes.
The waitresses. All of that is
He
fascinating.
needed to hire, in order for this plan to work, he needed to hire smart, efficient young women who would not have been able to come west had their parents not been satisfied that he was going to chaperone them and see that they were treated well. And that's what he did.
Yeah.
Although, of course, many a romance resulted from proximity.
Yeah, of course,
being there.
Of course.
And so it was said that he helped populate the West.
It's true. But you know, the families of the young women knew they were safe.
Yep.
They were cared for.
Mm-hmm.
It's just fascinating. I think that's, for me, one of my favorites in terms of you sharing. I'm
right now reading a book that I wouldn't have even known about had Michael Feinstein not told me about it. Michael being a friend and a friend to show business veterans.
Very much so.
Devoted.
He takes
care of and helps look after.
Yeah. Every generation of older performers has usually, there's sort of like a custodian, a guardian.
Roddy McDowell was that for many years.
Marvin.
Marvin Page.
Marvin Page was the guy. It's a side note, but just these people who made a point of taking care of, whether it's getting them to events, making sure they can get to events, or just in general checking on them,
escorting them.
Making sure that they were okay. And it always impressed me and warmed my heart to see that there is always someone who steps up.
Yeah. Well, Michael told me that Janice Page, now 97 years old, had self-published an autobiography, and he found it very moving and poignant. So I bought a copy right away on Amazon, which I think may be the only place you can get it.
Yeah.
And I think 200 pages in already. It's a big book. And she wrote it herself. And at 97, she's become, philosophical. She's somebody who's looked back on a long life and many, many changes, some of which she doesn't care for, changes in society and show business, and others that she is open enough to embrace. But her stories are just growing up, and her difficult mother who sort of cast a shadow over her young life, and then her discovery. I mean, she was literally an overnight, not star, but virtually that. Just amazing, an amazing story. Amazing. She's from Tacoma, Washington. Can I tell a little?
Yeah.
She's from Tacoma, Washington, and she had a younger sister. They grew up with a mother, no father on the premises, but loving grandparents. And she always loved to sing, and she obviously had a talent for it. And at a certain point in her mid-teens, her mother said, "We're going to Hollywood." And they got in the car. They parked her sister with the grandparents, and they came here and rented an apartment within walking distance of the Hollywood Canteen, which was then operating during World War II to entertain the soldiers and sailors, and and movie stars would come and serve them coffee and donuts and entertain. And so that's what Janice did. It was not a real name. They changed her name. And her mother said to her one day, "You're going to perform tomorrow night." And Janice said, "All I know is opera. They're not going to want to hear opera." She said, "You're going to do it." So she sang Un Bel Dì from Madame Butterfly, and got a big reaction. And when she stepped off the stage, a woman came over and introduced herself. Her name was Ida Coverman. Well, a lot of movie buffs listening to me know already who that was. She was Louis B. Mayer's assistant. And Janice was not the first person that she had brought to MGM. She had a lot to do with Judy Garland getting her contract at MGM. Anyway, the next day, Mrs. Coverman's behest, she took the bus over on Washington Boulevard to MGM, was shown into Louis B. Mayer's office. He was very welcoming and sent her down to makeup and all that. And they signed her to a 6-month contract and put her right away in a scene with Red Skelton in Bathing Beauty. After 6 months, they let her go. They didn't know what to do with her. She was beautiful, but unconventionally so. And they had a lot of useful talent there. They really, They had a surplus of talent. So she was crying. Her agent, Mrs. Coverman, also got her an agent. So the day she was let go, late in the morning, she's crying, goes to the front entrance, and her agent meets her there. He says, "Stop crying. We've got an appointment at Warner Brothers." They go to Warner Brothers, where Sally Biano, the famous talent executive there, welcomed them, was very kind to Janice, and got on the phone and said, "Delmer, I think I've got the girl." And he could only have been referring to Delmer Daves, the famous writer-director. And they walked over to a sound stage where Delmer Daves was shooting the movie called Hollywood Canteen. And he took one look at Janice and said, "She's it. She's the one." And they put her under contract. I mean, that day, you couldn't make up stories like that.
Incredible.
And she has so many good ones.
Incredible.
So.
P.S. This is what happens when you ask my dad about books. This is you love it, and I love it. I love how much joy they bring you always.
Mm-hmm.
That's why sometimes my dad is doing many other things, and he's not writing. And I will say to you, you're a writer. You love to write. That's the thing you need to be doing. And then you'll start doing it again, and it's like it's a spark for you.
Mm-hmm.
Writing makes you happy.
Yes, it does.
In the same way that reading good writing makes you very happy.
Yeah, all true.
And you read everything, because you read fiction, you read nonfiction,
Mm-hmm.
you read biographies, all sorts of stuff. But say, we'll do a separate episode, and you can really hear him go into all of the books he loves.
Go on.
And on.
And on.
It's a 15-part series. Anyway. All right, now again, these are knee jerks.
All right.
Favorite actor?
Humphrey Bogart.
Favorite actress?
I'm going to say Meryl Streep.
Sure. Why not? Everyone else does.
Yeah.
A classic. Give me a classic.
Oh.
I mean, you could tell them who your girlfriend is. Thelma Todd is the answer, by the way.
Well, Thelma Todd,
Todd's his
yes.
girlfriend.
Yes. But I'm in love with Thelma Todd.
You are in love with Thelma Todd.
There's a difference.
It's true. It is true.
There's so many great
I
actresses
know,
from
Daddy.
that period. My gosh, how do you boil it down?
That's why I say knee jerk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a knee-jerk answer.
Yeah. No, I know. Favorite jazz musician? Knee jerk. What comes to mind?
Count Basie.
Yeah. Oh, there's never a bad time.
Yeah.
Just never a bad time.
I've been watching the old TV series M Squad with Lee Marvin from the late 50s. And the second season, they adopted a new theme song played by Count Basie. And it's dynamite. And the composing credits on this series are pretty mind-blowing, too. Johnny Williams.
Johnny Williams.
Lynn Murray, Benny Carter, who I got to know. I was lucky enough to get to know. What a wonderful man he was. I even had the nerve to play piano with Benny Carter. It takes nerve. I was going to use another term which I won't use.
Oh, man. I always say, just if you don't know, my dad is a jazz nut, devoted. And both my parents love musicals, music in general. Favorite musical? That one I think I know. Because there's never a bad time for it. You know the answer.
Guys and Dolls?
No. So it's one of the best musical movies ever.
Musical movie, Seven
Yes. Oh,
Brides.
sorry.
Singing in the Rain.
Singing in the Rain is the answer.
Sorry,
Always the answer.
sorry. Yes.
Seven Brides is my favorite film, my mom's favorite film. Oh, I'm sorry. No, musicals in general, I don't know.
Oh, I thought you were
what's the best show?
See, I thought you were talking about Broadway.
Sure. Okay, well, what's the best show you ever saw?
Well, I didn't see the
Yeah, but again,
Mommy's generation of.
But again, I know which one you guys talk about the most. Nicholas Nickleby. You're too dead.
Well, that's not a musical.
Oh, I'm so. See.
Nicholas
I'm
Nickleby
sorry.
was the Royal
Forgive me.
Shakespeare,
I'm
Royal
saying
Shakespeare
musical.
Company production, which we saw over 2 nights.
Yeah.
8 hours, 4 hours each night. The greatest experience I've ever had in the theater.
Yeah. Sorry, I said musical.
And
I apologize.
another great, unforgettable Broadway experience was seeing the original production of Sweeney Todd, where they disassembled a factory in New England and rebuilt it on the stage.
Yeah.
There was no curtain. the stage was open, as you walked in the theater.
Yeah.
That was amazing. And I'm grateful. I'm so grateful that I saw the original production of A Chorus Line.
Yeah. No, you guys, I'm very happy to have grown up in LA, but that the experiences you and Mommy had growing up in New York, just mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. And,
one night, your mother and I went down to a club on 7th Avenue.
You went clubbing with my mother.
7th Avenue South, called Sweet Basil, Greenwich Village. And if you want to see the musician du jour, you got there early enough to get a good table by having dinner there. Not required, but that's how you got a decent seat. So we were sitting in a packed little room, and there was a guy at the table next to us. Each table was about 12 inches wide, it seems to me, just barely enough for the plate to fit on. And this guy sitting next to us, who we hadn't talked to or made conversation with, suddenly says, and rises to his feet, and says, "I think we all ought to get up right about now." And I'm looking at him like he's crazy, and then I see what it is. Count Basie is coming in to see Benny Carter, his old friend Benny Carter. And we stood up indeed. And then a little while later, I went over and asked for Count Basie's autograph because I couldn't stop myself.
No, oh no. Why would you?
Yeah.
Why would you?
And I didn't know Benny then. I got to know him later on in LA.
I'm very lucky that you both love music and performances the way you do. Getting to see Vince Giordano, if you are a New Yorker, or whenever Vince does travel, but if you are a New Yorker, for the love of Pete, go see Vince Giordano and his Nighthawks, because
every Monday and Tuesday night, if I'm not mistaken, it's still the schedule at Iguana on West 50s.
Absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. A wonderful experience. Same thing here. You can see Gordon Goodwin's Big Fat Band.
Whenever they play.
Never a bad time for them. No, live performance, live music, as much as we're a family that loves film and television, there's just nothing like live. I should say, though, that I think that's why we value the movie-going experience the way we do. Because there is no replacement for being in a room laughing together or crying together, whatever it is, reacting as a group. There's just nothing quite like that. I have a handful of, I remember seeing 10 Things I Hate About You in a movie theater, and it was a packed movie theater. And it was just, people were cracking up, loving every minute. And I remember seeing Liar, Liar in a movie theater. And I remember it was another one where people were falling out of their seats laughing. And it was such a special thing to be with others as we watched these
We
films.
all saw The Hangover together.
We did. Me, my mom, and my dad saw The Hangover together. And I always say that to me is proof that if something is well done, anyone can enjoy it. So we put my mom my mom's at one end. She's the most, I don't know, I wouldn't necessarily say conservative, but when it comes to things like dick jokes for 7 hours, she's not a fan. I don't think any of us are, but mommy's the most reactive. You're sort of in the middle because you've had to learn to just accept that in many ways this is where we're headed, God help us. And then I'm sort of on the other end going, I've seen all of these. This is, what comedy is today. We all laughed at that movie.
Yep.
And we use it a lot as an example because it's true. If something is done well, anyone can enjoy it. Even if there are moments that make you feel uncomfortable, even if there are moments that you went, oh, did they really have... If it's good, everybody can have a good time.
I invited Judd Apatow to come to my class at USC.
You did.
And he attended USC.
Yeah.
And he said, no one has ever asked him back. I said, I'm asking you right now. So he came and I said, let's show a film that you admire. So he chose Diner.
Yeah.
And it was a darn good choice. Barry Levinson's wonderful film, Diner. So I have a big class, over 300 students in Norris, Frank Sinatra Hall at Norris Theater. And the class, we now moved the start time, but it used to be 7 p.m. till 11 p.m. That's
late.
It's a long sit,
Yeah.
and it's the end of the day. And but if you have a good film and a good guest, it's worth it. So
you should just explain the reason it's that long is he lectures for an hour, then they watch a film,
which is
and then
like 2 hours.
Yep, and then at the end of the film, they do a Q&A with the guest, whoever the guest may be, and then the students, get to ask questions as well.
Mm-hmm. So I was cognizant of the fact that some people were in parking lots that closed at a certain hour, and that 11 p.m. cutoff really was important. Every now and then I'd let it run long. So Judd is a former stand-up comic. He loves an audience, and he's just very, very funny, naturally funny guy. So he was having a good time, and most of the students were having a good time. But as it crept toward 11 o'clock, I didn't want to interrupt the flow of what he was saying. But about 11:08 or 9, I said, "Look, if some of you, have to go, it's okay. But I'm going to keep talking to Judd." And Judd said, "I got news for you. My wife's out of town. I got nowhere to be. I'm not leaving." And that got a round of applause from the remaining students.
Yes.
And I said, "Don't feel funny if you have to get up and go." And as people are getting up and leaving, he's saying, You'll never succeed in show business."
It's very funny. It was a funny and wild night. But man, and it's hard ones. Favorite interview?
Katharine Hepburn.
Well.
Who I interviewed on 4 separate occasions. They were all wonderful, but the first time was extraordinary. One of the most memorable days of my life. Partly because I was in her home, in her townhouse in the East 40s. And she was colorful and blunt, opinionated, an ideal interview,
And it's Katharine Hepburn.
And it's Katharine Hepburn.
And it's Katharine Hepburn.
Damn right.
People always ask who you wish you could have interviewed.
Walt Disney.
Right. That's the go-to. And I feel like not a surprise, but also who would argue? Really, who would argue with that? I think it's been really special that you've gotten to interview so many people who have worked with, whether it's Walt or Hitchcock. Getting to hear stories from people directly.
Oh, sure.
Is it's really special.
And becoming friendly with Walt's oldest daughter, Diane, and her late husband, Ron Miller. Mm-hmm. That was really a gift.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
if you don't know, Diane is the reason that the Walt Disney Family Museum in San Francisco exists. And it's a wonderful place. We cannot recommend it enough. It's special. It's the family. And the reason that she wanted it up there was so that it would be separate.
And because she and her husband lived there.
Yeah, of course. Yes. But also part of it was sort of just separating it a bit to sort of have it be, this is about...
It's not a corporate museum.
No, this is about Walt Disney.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful. I've never had anyone go and say, oh, no, it's very, very, very special. And we recommend you go whenever you can. I'm trying to think. Now, I have a list. Lord help us. I have a little list. I have a little list. Well, my buddy Josh Rouse said, how did you get such a handsome son-in-law? I have good taste, Josh. I have good taste.
I raised, helped raise a smart kid who chose well.
Yeah, dumb as a post, but handsome. No, he's very smart, I promise. Pulp Cereal, our friend there, he wants to know, what are your top 5 favorite movie serials?
Oh, my all-time favorite is The Adventures of Captain Marvel.
Yes.
Republic Pictures.
Which is my answer, too.
With Frank Coughlin Jr. as Billy Batson. I got to know Frank, who was a delightful guy. And Tom Tyler as Captain Marvel. And I also met Whitey, Billy Benedict.
Yeah.
His pal in the film. It's a terrific serial. It's just about the best. I also love Daredevils of the Red Circle, Another Republic, 1939. Zorro's Fighting Legion.
You do love Zorro's Fighting. I do not love Zorro's Fighting Legion.
Well,
it's fine, but you love it. And man, he shows it to his students, and there's almost always a really significant divide of people who go, Yeah, that's sure. If it makes you happy, Leonard,
Yeah.
whatever you like.
And then Flash Gordon.
Because there's just never a bad time for Flash Gordon.
Yeah.
So good. So much fun.
The last time I showed
and
Flash
I think it's
Gordon,
your favorite villain.
Oh, Ming the Merciless.
Ming the Merciless.
Played by the great Charles Middleton.
Yes. Love that.
I showed Flash Gordon, a chapter a week some time ago in my class. And I have students from all over the campus. I mean, every department.
It's not just film students.
Not just film students. And one of the athletes came to me about 4 or 5 weeks in, and he had apparently told his coach that he was watching Flash Gordon. His coach pointed to the wall where there's kind of an honor roll of names, including USC Olympic champion Buster Crabbe. And so he liked that.
Who was
connection.
the lead?
Yes.
Who was the lead in those? Steve Gelder says, is this the longest you've gone without seeing a movie in a theater? Are you watching at home differently than you normally would? Maybe adding popcorn, concessions, candy, sodas, dimming the lights more to try to replicate the experience? And how much do we miss them? Stephen Gray, we miss you just every waking moment.
We miss you guys.
Pretty much every waking moment.
I do miss going to the movies.
Mm-hmm.
I miss seeing good movies.
That's a big one. That's a big one.
Because a lot of the indie films that have been opening during this period.
I watched a movie last night that was just genuinely awful, and it just sucks when you watch a bad movie. Just really sucks when you watch a bad movie.
So I'm not going to any special lengths because during this period, during this self-quarantine period, I have lost a great deal of ambition.
Yes.
So I'm not dimming the lights or
very human and very
working on the popcorn, but I'm watching movies. Mostly I'm watching older movies.
Yes. Josh Spiegel says that what is your favorite Walt Disney Treasure title and why?
In the Walt Disney Treasure series, I think
El Fuego Baca.
I like that. Fine. Well, the one that was the most satisfying to get to do was called On the Front Lines.
Yeah.
All the World War II instructional and training and propaganda and morale building films, plus the complete Victory Through Air Power, which used to be impossible to see anywhere.
Yep.
So that gave me great satisfaction.
Love
being
it.
involved with that.
John Roca, our buddy, says, was there a director, actor, or producer who passed unexpectedly before you could get one more interview with them after the last one left you with so many more questions? And what was going to be your first question of that next interview if it had happened?
Oh no, I don't feel that sense of being cheated.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that I wouldn't want to. All right, I'll give you a good one. When I was in my teens and publishing Film Fan Monthly, still living with my parents in Teaneck, New Jersey, the next town over, Paramus, had one of the first shopping malls in America called the Bergen Mall. And the Bergen Mall had a theater that was on the Straw Hat Circuit, as they used to call it. The Playhouse on the Mall, it was called. And they had touring companies of shows. And a lot of older movie stars and character actors came through. And there was a play that Melvin Douglas had starred in on Broadway called Spotford, a very minor but enjoyable little show. And Hans Conried brought it to Playhouse on the Mall. And I've been trying to get to interview some of the other people who've been there, and I tried going through their publicists who feigned helpfulness.
Sure.
But never delivered. They never came through. And a friend of mine said, you don't need to go to a publicist. You can just walk backstage and knock on the dressing room door. So on a Friday night...
It works.
On a Friday night, that's what I did. Watched the show, enjoyed the show, and then went backstage, knock, knock, knock. Hans Conried comes to the door. And a very imposing man he was. And I said fumblingly, hello, Mr. Conried, I'm a great admirer of yours, and I publish this little magazine for movie buffs, and I'd love to interview you about your film career. And he took the magazines to look at them, and he said, we can never presume we could never presume to delude someone as young as you that I ever had anything resembling a film career. I said, well, you've been in a lot of movies and I'd love to talk to you about them. He said, well, fine, come back an hour before curtain on Monday. And I did just that with my trusty tape recorder. And he needed very little makeup or prep for the show. So we talked for about 50 minutes. And he said, why don't you come back tomorrow night? And I did. And we talked again. And I think I came back a third night.
How old are you?
17 or so.
Yeah.
And he was just terrific. He was a great raconteur. Wonderful, wonderful stories. But at that time, I had no interest in radio, in old time, what we now call old time radio.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't ask him a single question about radio. And when I did get myself hooked on old time radio and wrote an entire book about it called Great American Broadcast, I found myself in the untenable position of not having asked the busiest actor in radio history anything about radio. It's just, so that's where I wish I could turn back the clock and get it right.
I love it. Daniel wants to know Misadventures of Merlin Jones or Monkey's Uncle.
You
can say neither.
Is neither
I
an
accept
acceptable
neither.
answer? Yeah. No offense to Tommy Kirk or Annette Funicello or the Beach Boys.
This person would like to know, his name is Leonard Maximum Overdrive, would like to know what is your favorite Vincent Price film?
Oh. Well, as a kid, I was fond of The House on Haunted Hill.
Sure.
And The Tingler, which were both schlocky movies, William Castle movies, in fact. I don't think he would point to that. The one that, I'm going to draw a blank on the one that I was
That's
gonna
okay.
think of. Hang on. Theater of Blood, is that what it's called?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, look that up.
You want me to look?
Use your trusty device there.
Use my device.
Because I think that's the one. Well, I like The Raven very much.
Yes.
Which is, again, a spoofy film in which he co-starred with Peter Lorre and a young Jack Nicholson.
What did you think
And
the
Boris
title was?
Karloff. Pardon me?
What did you think the title was?
Theater of Blood?
1973, Vincent Price.
Yep.
Theater of Blood.
That's the one.
That's the one. Nailed it. The Jedi Librarian, great name. How does it feel after all these years to help save the world from Mecha Streisand?
Oh, well, I've been basking in the glow
It's true.
of that achievement ever
true.
since it happened.
Years.
Decades now.
Decades. If you don't know, watch the episode of South Park with my dad in it. Any chance the two of you can host a documentary show on Disney Plus talking about the history of Disney animation?
That is in the hands of the folks at
That
Disney Plus.
man, that would be lovely. I would think that's really, really cool.
We would love to do it.
But you never know. Andrew wants to know if we've ever walked out of a film. Well, we have two sets of rules. Home rules, you have to get to 20 minutes of a movie. If you get to the 20 minutes and you want to jump off a bridge, you can turn it off. Though still, I will say, you more than me will try to give something even more. I have gotten to the point where, as you like to say, it never gets better. As I watched this movie last night. I think my husband and I watched an hour and 10 minutes of it, and I finally just went, no, my life is too short, it's terrible, and I'm turning it off. But it's harder. It's harder to get you to turn something off.
It's inertia.
And then
masochism.
Walking out of a theater, is there any other than the ones we know?
Well,
you walked out of Zoolander 2, which he wrote a review about, and that was the whole thing.
And the headline of my review was why I walked out of Zoolander 2. Because not having seen the entire movie, I didn't feel I could do a proper movie review.
Correct. And then there's the ones you had to walk out of because of me.
Yes.
But I don't think, as a kid, he had to walk out of, I think it was two movies. I want to say Beethoven and then that Huck Finn, because they were not made for children as advertised. And I went running. Anything else though? I don't think.
Well, when we were first, I think it was when we were just married. Your mother and I went to see. We lived on the west side of Manhattan, and we went to the east side to see a new movie based on a book by Joseph Wambaugh, who was a former cop, who wrote about L.A. police mostly, called The Choir Boys.
Okay.
About the misadventures of a bunch of rowdy cops.
Okay.
And Alice said, "This is disgusting. I want to leave." And I said, "I don't walk out of movies." And she said, "Are you enjoying this?" I said, "No." She said, "Well, then why are you staying?" I said, "Well, because I don't walk out of movies." And I said, "Well, I'm leaving," she said. And I felt very uncomfortable her walking out by herself.
Yes.
And so I followed her, but my head was turned back to the screen as I was walking up the aisle.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, it's a sickness in a way.
Yeah, in general, we don't walk out in a theater. It's very rare. I think the last time I did was that movie First Grader. Is that the one? The foreign one that was at Telluride? People were obsessed with it.
Uh-huh.
Everyone kept saying, "Oh, it's so uplifting. It's beautiful." And I went and saw it. It was a late screening. I think the movie started at midnight or something like that. It was so upsetting and depressing that after about a half an hour, I just decided that I would rather go to bed. And I walked out. And I do not regret that. Lowell wants to know, what would you call the perfect movie?
Well, Casablanca
It's up there.
is my idea of a perfect movie because it fulfills everything it sets out to do, everything it sets out to be, and it has romance, humor, suspense, timeliness, and a point of view. What more could you want in a movie? You know what's another perfect movie? A Christmas Story. A perfect movie.
It is. It holds up.
You know. Wouldn't want to change a frame.
Yeah. Huh. Are you ever going to have Ethan and Patrick Wayne on your podcast?
I wouldn't mind.
Have them call us, and we will figure it out. Yeah, and Armchair wanted to know what the first film you reviewed was. Is there a filmmaker, living or deceased, whom you feel had/has produced a body of work you feel to be woefully underappreciated?
Oh, a body of work. Somebody who never got the recognition he or she deserved.
I don't know.
Well, one of my unsung heroines is Maggie Greenwald.
Oh, yes. And mine as well, as you know.
And who made Songcatcher, which we presented at Maltin Fest last year, which is just a glorious film. And she had made a film before that got recognition at Sundance too, called The Kill-Off, based on a Jim Thompson novel. And then she made a film I really liked called The Ballad of Little Joe, starring Susie Amos. And she's done some other work. She's done some television work. She does some teaching. She's a real talent that deserves to be better known and more celebrated. Yeah.
And I would say, to you guys, we're going to wrap up. Who do you appreciate? Who is a filmmaker that you love to tell people about? What are some films that you love to tout? What are movies that you love saying to your friends? Have you seen this? I want to show it to you. Because the truth is, there are just so many out there. Not to mention if you get into the, around the world. It's a whole other thing. And I'm always fascinated. I love asking people, what's a movie that you recommend to everybody? What's something that you love to say? What do you love to show to your friends?
Yeah.
If everybody comes over, what do you want to watch? Because it's the only way to actually know what all is out there.
For years, I used to recommend House of Games, David Mamet's film, and people would thank me. And then when it came out, the Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Shaky.
No,
Which one?
The one where he plays the handicapped,
slow-witted.
The Lookout.
The Lookout. There you go.
The Lookout.
You nailed it.
Yes, Scott Frank's movie, The Lookout. That's another one people thank me for recommending.
Oh yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah. And there are some basic ones like our opening night for Maltin Fest was Sing Street.
Yep.
You're going to like that movie. It's a great movie. It's delightful. It's everything you need, especially right now. I don't want to watch stuff that's depressing right now. That does, in general, to be honest, that's not what I look for. I really prefer watching stuff that makes me laugh. Of course, I will watch things that are serious. But, it is amazing how good you feel. It's why I think people will always look to something like Singing in the Rain.
Yeah.
I
mean, we've discussed this before, but escapism gets a bad name.
And I don't know why.
Because a lot of what passes for escapism is just
crap.
or if not crap, then just flighty, inconsequential stuff. But a film like Singing in the Rain, or one of the Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers movies, actually lifts your spirits, makes you feel better than you did when you walked into the theater 2 hours earlier. And to do that, I think, is a very high form of art.
It is,
and
look,
not to be dismissed.
We will if we're together, whether we're at a film festival and we're in our hotel at the end of the day, or if we're just like now, we're home together. We'll pull up clips on YouTube. Mm-hmm. I'll watch a dance number. I'll watch the Nicholas Brothers. I will find something, and the smile on your face, the way you feel, the way it uplifts you. My mom and I, we went for a drive along the coast just to get outside and to look at the ocean. And we were listening, my mom and I love our show tunes, and we were listening to Gypsy and to Carousel and those overtures especially. And those are two shows with incredible overtures. It just lifts you and lightens you. The other night when we finished dinner, I put on the barn raising scene from barn raising dance and scene from Seven Brothers. My mom and I watched it for the 7 billionth time, and I smiled. So, it's, as you say, I think it is high art. I think that it is something really magical. Yep. If you can watch something in a matter of minutes.
If it was easy to do,
everyone would do it.
More of it.
Man, oh man. Well, as I say, leave your comments. Let us know what else you'd like to hear about. We're here. We hope that you are well, and we will speak to you soon.
Bye-bye for now.